maybe I just had a little bit more to do, but I think we kind of all, whatever we did in the banks, we all kind of did that. I didn't really do any of the, no, we had a good stunt woman, Rita Miner, and she kind of knocked everything out.
Cinema screens and refused to let go. Set It Off, released in November 1996, was raw, explosive, and unapologetically real. 4 black women, cornered by poverty and betrayal, decided to fight back the only way the world had left them. Audiences didn't just watch it, they felt it. But here's what nobody talked about after the credits rolled. The people who brought that story to life were carrying stories of their own. Stories far heavier than any screenplay. Stories involving death, divorce, addiction, illness, financial collapse, and survival against impossible odds. Today, we're going behind the legend. We're going beyond the performances. We're talking about what actually happened to the cast of Set It Off, the triumphs they never got credit for, and the tragedies they never fully recovered from. Some of them became icons. Some disappeared. 2 of them are gone forever. And by the time we reach the end of this video, you're going to look at that 1996 film in a way you never have before. Stay with us, because this story doesn't just shock, it transforms. Queen Latifah, Cleo Sims. Let's start at the top. The character who walked into every scene like she owned the oxygen in the room, Cleo Sims. If you were alive in 1996 and watched Queen Latifah in that role, you already know what we mean. She wasn't acting, she was channeling, a storm in human form. And when that film ended the way it did, audiences sat in silence. Because Cleo wasn't supposed to die, she was supposed to win. Born on March 18, 1970, in Newark, New Jersey, Dana Elaine Owens, better known to the world as Queen Latifah, was just 26 years old when she stepped into that role. 26, and she made the entire industry stop and stare. But here is the part most fans never knew. Just a few years before Set It Off began filming, Queen Latifah lost her brother, Lancelot Owens Jr., her closest confidant. Her anchor died in a motorcycle accident in 1992. An accident involving a bike she had actually gifted him. That kind of grief doesn't just hurt, it haunts. It follows you into every room, every performance, every quiet moment you try to steal for yourself. She later linked the depression that followed directly to significant weight gain, and she carried the public weight of fame while privately carrying something far heavier, unresolved mourning. Ask yourself, when you watched her play Cleo charging toward those police cars, was that just acting? Or was that a woman who had already decided that some things in life hurt worse than death? And the professional world wasn't gentle either. Legal disputes within her flavor unit company created financial tension in the late 1990s. Business stress piled on top of grief. The crown looked polished from the outside. Inside, cracks were forming. Then came her personal life. For years, Queen Latifah kept her relationship with Ebony Nichols private. When she finally acknowledged it publicly, beginning in 2013, the relief was real.
Queen Latifah takes to her social media to show love to her longtime partner, Ebony Nichols.
But so was the backlash. Homophobic criticism came in waves. She had chosen honesty over safety, and that choice carried a price. Here's what's remarkable, though. None of it stopped her. Chicago gave her an Oscar nomination. The Equalizer made her the center of one of television's most watched dramas. Her estimated net worth today sits at around $70 million, and she is still, at 55 years old, one of the most commanding presences in the entertainment industry. She didn't just survive, she redefined what survival looks like. Jada Pinkett Smith, Stony Nuomi. Now let's talk about the face that carried the emotional soul of Set It Off. Stony Nuomi was grief in motion, a woman driven to the edge not by greed or recklessness, but by the unbearable weight of loss. And Jada Pinkett Smith, born September 18, 1971, in Baltimore, Maryland, was only 25 years old when she brought Stony to life. She was already magnetic, already undeniable. But none of us knew just how much of that performance was rooted in something deeply, painfully personal. Her marriage to Will Smith began in 1997, 1 year after Set It Off dropped. From the outside, it looked like a Hollywood fairy tale. 2 of the most talented people in the industry, powerful, beautiful, unstoppable. The reality was a slow fracture hidden behind carefully managed public appearances. In 2020, Jada revealed her relationship with singer August Alsina, and what came with that revelation was even more stunning. She and Will had reportedly been living apart since 2016. 2016. 4 years of separation that the public knew absolutely nothing about. 4 years of private pain presented to the world as partnership. Think about what that actually means. Waking up every day, walking red carpets, doing interviews, while carrying a secret that heavy. And beneath that, there was more. Earlier in life, she battled depression and addiction. Then came the alopecia diagnosis, an autoimmune condition that caused visible hair loss. A medical reality turned into an international spectacle after the 2022 Oscars, a moment of genuine vulnerability hijacked by a joke, a slap, and a media firestorm that eclipsed everything else about both their careers. Despite all of this, The Matrix Reloaded in 2003 grossed over $739 million globally. Her producing career kept growing. Her voice only got louder. At 54, Jada Pinkett Smith is no longer chasing validation from Hollywood. She is writing, producing, and choosing her own terms. Her estimated net worth of around $50 million tells part of the story. But the real legacy? A woman who let the world see her fall apart and refused to disappear. Vivica A. Fox, Frankie Sutton. 1996 was Vivica, a Fox's year. Independence Day, Set It Off, 2 massive films, 1 extraordinary moment of arrival.
Vivica was premium in the 90s. You will never see another Independence Day.
Born on July 30th, 1964 in South Bend, Indiana, Vivica was 32 years old when she played Frankie Sutton, the bank employee whose insider knowledge and moral compromise becomes the group's first domino. She brought intelligence and anguish to that role in equal measure. The world noticed. And then the tabloids moved in. Her marriage to singer Christopher 6ix9ine Harvest ended publicly between 1998 and 2002 after revelations of infidelity. What followed was even more relentless, a highly publicized involvement with rapper 50 Cent that turned her private heartbreak into headline entertainment. Every detail dissected, every tear analyzed, every mistake amplified. Fox later admitted that the divorce triggered deep loneliness and depressive episodes. While the world debated her personal life, she was dealing with something that no amount of media coverage actually addressed: the quiet devastation of feeling publicly humiliated while privately falling apart. She canceled multiple projects. She retreated from appearances. Hollywood, which had spent years scrutinizing her appearance, her age, and her race, began offering fewer leading roles. Between 2004 and 2009, her film roles declined sharply in box office scale. The industry that celebrated her in 1996 had quietly moved on. But Vivica A. Fox is not someone who accepts a quiet exit. At 61, she continues working as an actress, producer, and director. She never stopped. She adapted, reinvented, and kept going. Not because it was easy, but because stopping was never an option she considered. Her estimated net worth of around $3 million is the result not of uninterrupted success, but of someone who rebuilt every single time the industry tried to leave her behind. You have to respect that. Kimberly Elise, T.T. Williams. If Cleo was the fire and Stoney was the grief, T.T. Williams was the wound. The most emotionally fragile member of the group, the one you desperately wanted to protect, the one the film ultimately destroyed in the most gut-wrenching way. Kimberly Elise, born April 17, 1967, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was 29 years old when she played T.T., and what she did with that role wasn't just acting, it was excavation. But here is where her story gets heartbreaking in a completely different way. Her marriage to Maurice Oldham ended in divorce in 2005. Painful, but survivable. And then 2 years later, 2007, Maurice died suddenly from a massive blood clot. They were divorced. And yet, grief doesn't require a current relationship to be devastating. The father of her children was gone. The man she had built a life with was simply no longer in the world. And Kimberly Elise was left to raise 2 daughters alone, carrying not just the weight of single parenthood, but the particular anguish of loss without the clarity of closure. She later admitted that widowhood permanently altered her sense of security, that it reshaped her priorities in ways she hadn't fully anticipated. And through all of this, she kept working. Beloved, John Q. Woman Thou Art Loosed, which earned her an Independent Spirit Award nomination, performance after performance rooted in emotional truth, drawn from a life that had given her more than enough pain to work with. At 58, Kimberly Elise remains one of the most underrated dramatic actresses of her generation. Her estimated net worth of around $2 million doesn't reflect the scale of her talent, but it does reflect the reality of a Hollywood that consistently undervalued it. Her story is one of the most important in this entire cast. John C. McGinley, Detective Strode. Here's a name you might not immediately think about when you recall Set It Off, but Detective Strode, relentless, cold, implacable, is the force the film builds its tension against, and the man who played him, John C. McGinley, was 37 years old when he stepped into that role. Born August 3, 1959 in New York City, McGinley had already built a reputation for playing intense, sharp, driven characters. Strode fit him like a glove, but off-camera, the intensity had a very different source. In 1997, just 1 year after Set It Off, his son Max was born with Down syndrome. What followed was not a crisis of character. It was a test of everything. Medical decisions that never stopped coming. Financial strain that consumed nearly all of his income. Emotional exhaustion that left little room for anything else. His marriage to Lauren Lambert, already under pressure, could not survive it. They divorced in 2001. McGinley later admitted that almost everything he earned during that period went toward medical care and family support. Scrubs made him famous. 180-plus episodes, the kind of television visibility most actors dream of. But creatively, it trapped him. The angry, abrasive typecasting deepened. He described the era as professionally successful and emotionally draining in the same breath. Here's the part that reframes everything, though. John C. McGinley did not retreat from his son's diagnosis. He ran toward it. Today, at 66 years old, he is one of the most visible advocates for Down syndrome awareness and disability rights in the entertainment industry. He serves on multiple advocacy boards. He uses his platform, every part of it, not for career rehabilitation, but for something far more meaningful. His estimated net worth of $10 million tells one story, but the real measure of this man was done entirely off-screen. Blair Underwood, Keith Weston. Keith Weston was everything Stoney deserved and couldn't hold on to. Blair Underwood, born August 25, 1964, in Tacoma, Washington, was 32 when he played that role. Charming, conflicted, impossibly handsome. A leading man in every sense. And yet stability, as he would discover, has very little to do with how you look on screen. His first marriage, to Desiree DaCosta, began in 1989 and unraveled by 2000. Emotional distance, prolonged custody disputes, the particular weight of public expectation when everyone assumes that people who look like you and earn what you earn must be living a perfect life. Career momentum was equally uneven. L.A. Law gave him his first major platform.
Now with Blair Underwood, you grew to love him on shows like L.A. Law and movies like Deep Impact.
But several television ventures failed abruptly. City of Angels, Ironside, leaving gaps that forced constant reinvention throughout the 2000s. Multiple series cancellations in a single decade will test anyone's composure. Today, Blair Underwood is 61 years old, still actively working across film, television, and theater, while balancing producing and philanthropic work. His estimated net worth of around $8 million reflects a career built on longevity and adaptation. There are no dramatic collapses here, but there is something quieter and, in its own way, just as instructive, the story of a man who had every appearance of effortless success and worked incredibly hard in very unglamorous ways to maintain it. Doctors D.R.E., Black Sam. The most unexpected name on this cast list. Dr. Dre, born February 18, 1965 in Compton, California, played Black Sam, the street power broker who moves through Set It Off like a shadow. He was 31 years old, and everything about the casting made sense. Because in 1996, Dre was Black Sam, feared, powerful, untouchable. His marriage to Nicole Young began that same year, 1996. It lasted until 2020, when she filed for divorce. What followed became one of the most expensive and emotionally destructive celebrity separations in modern history. Court filings, restraining order allegations, a reported $100 million settlement finalized in 2021. Years of legal warfare that consumed focus, finances, and stability simultaneously. And then, in January 2021, his body gave out, hospitalized with a brain aneurysm, multiple strokes, forced into isolation and long-term recovery at the very moment his personal life was already in free fall.
Well, now to some developing news we have. Dr. Dre is in the ICU after suffering a brain aneurysm.
This was the man who made The Chronic, who built Aftermath, whose business acumen turned Beats by Dre into a $3 billion acquisition. None of that insulated him from the biological reality of what sustained stress does to a human body. At 60, Dr. Dre continues overseeing music, production, and business ventures, living more privately than at any point in his public life. His estimated net worth of approximately $850 million is staggering. But even at that scale, and we want you to really sit with this, the cost of getting there was real. Success and suffering are not opposites. Sometimes they arrive together. Charlie Robinson, Nate Andrews. And now, the first of two names on this list that carry a different kind of weight. Charlie Robinson, born November 9, 1945, in Austin, Texas. At 51, he played Nate Andrews in Set It Off, the seasoned, weary presence who carried the moral memory of the streets. He was a veteran. Night Court had made him a household name across 9 seasons from 1984 to 1992. He had earned his place in American television history before Set It Off even began filming. But after the cameras stopped rolling on Night Court, the industry didn't hold a door open for him. Work slowed dramatically. Guest roles, theater, survival. His personal life had been turbulent. Divorce, prolonged property disputes, the exhausting cycle of financial insecurity that follows an actor whose steady work has dried up. During the Night Court years, he was filming up to 22 episodes per season just to stay financially viable, and when the show ended, there was no safety net. In his later years, health became the final adversary. Metastatic prostate cancer, recurrent infections, multiple hospitalizations between 2019 and 2021. His body was fighting battles his talent had never prepared him for. In 2013, he returned to the stage to play Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman, a man reckoning with a life that didn't deliver what he was promised. If you knew Charlie Robinson's story, you understood that casting on a level that had nothing to do with theater. Charlie Robinson passed away on July 11, 2021, at Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center. He was 75 years old. Cardiac arrest and multi-organ failure caused by septic shock linked to his cancer.
Actor Charlie Robinson died. He was 75 years old. A representative says he died Sunday from cardiac arrest and cancer.
His estimated net worth of $1 million reflected a lifetime of steady work. But what it cannot reflect, what no number can, is the dignity of a man who kept showing up, kept performing, kept giving to an industry that gave him far less in return than he deserved. We remember him. Thomas Jefferson Byrd, Luther. And here is where this video stops being entertainment. Thomas Jefferson Byrd, born June 25, 1950, in Griffin, Georgia. At 46, he played Luther in Set It Off, tense, volatile, unpredictable. A man you watched with nervous energy because you were never quite sure what he would do next. He brought that quality to every role he ever played. It was a gift, and Spike Lee recognized it early, casting Byrd in Clockers, Bamboozled, and multiple other collaborations across 2 decades. He received a Tony Award nomination for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. He was critically respected. He was artistically irreplaceable. But the industry's respect did not translate to financial security. More than half of his income between 1997 and 2010 reportedly came from stage work and regional theater rather than film. He taught. He performed. He kept his craft alive through sheer persistence in a business that had never fully rewarded him for it. His marriage to Victoria ended in divorce. He raised 4 children largely alone. He spoke openly in his later years about depression and the quiet shame of feeling invisible, despite a career that had touched thousands of people. On October 3, 2020, Thomas Jefferson Byrd was shot multiple times in the back during a robbery in Atlanta.
Actor Thomas Jefferson Byrd was killed Saturday off of Belvedere Avenue in southwest Atlanta.
It was approximately 1:45 in the morning. He was 70 years old. The theater community was stunned. The investigation lasted years. Partial justice was eventually reached. He deserved better. He deserved so much better. His estimated net worth of $1 million was a quiet testament to a life devoted entirely to art. He gave everything to this craft, and the world did not protect him the way it should have protected someone of his stature. If you haven't watched Thomas Jefferson Byrd's work, please go find it. Let that be your response to his story. Let his performances outlive the circumstances of his death. Ella Joyce, Detective Waller. Born June 12, 1954 in Chicago, Illinois, Ella Joyce was 42 years old when she stepped in to set it off as Detective Waller, the restrained, watchful investigator whose authority was built on observation rather than force.
Think anything else, you give us a call today.
It was a role that required a performer who understood the cost of holding things together while everything around you pulled apart, and Ella Joyce understood that cost personally. Her marriage to actor Dan Martin, which began in 1989, was tested by financial instability and the particular cruelty of an industry that can go cold without warning. Auditions dried up in the mid-1990s. Household income dropped sharply. She was teaching multiple fitness classes each week just to help cover basic expenses. This, while her acting career was supposed to be the primary story. Between 1995 and 1998, she appeared in fewer than 3 on-screen projects. For an actress who had recently come off significant network television success, that kind of sudden silence doesn't just affect your bank account, it affects your sense of self. And yet she endured, she rebuilt, she continued acting, writing, and mentoring younger performers. Today, at 71, she remains active in independent film and stage work, teaching performance workshops and carrying the wisdom of someone who has been through the fire and came out with something more valuable than fame. Her estimated net worth of around $2 million reflects decades of endurance. Not comfort, endurance. There is a difference, and Ella Joyce knows exactly what that difference feels like. Chip Fields, Darnell's mom. Chip Fields, born August 5, 1951 in Los Angeles, California. Her role in Set It Off was brief. Darnell's mother, a grounded maternal presence in a story built on chaos. But Chip Fields brought more truth to that role than the script required, because she was drawing from a well of experience that most people in that cast couldn't yet fathom. Her first marriage ended in divorce, after years marked by domestic violence and emotional control. She later admitted that the trauma shaped her silence for decades. She was raising her daughters, including Kim Fields, who would go on to star in The Facts of Life and Living Single, largely on her own. Hollywood was elevating younger faces. Financial pressure was constant. Industry sexism was relentless. During the 1980s, despite recognition from Good Times and later Living Single, she was repeatedly typecast into secondary maternal roles. Long periods of unemployment followed. Depression became a companion she hadn't invited. But she pivoted, quietly, methodically, with the kind of determination that doesn't announce itself. She trained as a director. She helmed episodes of Martin, Living Single, The Parkers, and House of Pain. She moved behind the camera and built a second career that the front of the camera had never offered her. At 74 years old, Chip Fields continues working primarily as a television director and producer. Her estimated net worth of around $1 million reflects reinvention rather than reward. But the story of this woman, surviving abuse, navigating a hostile industry, raising successful children, and rebuilding herself professionally on her own terms, is the kind of story that deserves its own documentary. Salma Richardson Whitfield, Shade. Born November 23, 1967 in Chicago, Illinois, Sally Richardson Whitfield was 29 when she played Shade in Set It Off. Sharp-tongued, street-smart, alive with energy in every frame she occupied. Her screen presence was rising fast in 1996, and it kept rising. Eureka, I Am Legend, and eventually a full pivot into directing that would take her to Queen Sugar and Scandal. But the transition from actress to director was not a smooth upward line. Several early directing pitches were rejected. Projects stalled despite her reputation. Between 2013 and 2016, she faced repeated setbacks trying to be taken seriously behind the camera, the particular frustration of being skilled, proven, and still not trusted with the keys. In her personal life, her marriage to actor Dondre Whitfield, which began in 2002, was tested by rumors of infidelity that quietly shook their foundation. She later admitted that holding the marriage together required confronting fear of loss rather than protecting image. During this same period, she fought postpartum depression largely alone, a battle that rarely makes headlines but costs everything in the quiet hours when no one is watching. Today, at 58, Sally Richardson Whitfield is a high-demand television director and executive producer. Her estimated net worth of around $2 million reflects a career rebuilt through persistence, survival, and reinvention. She didn't just transition, she transformed. W.C. Darnell. Born February 3, 1970, in Los Angeles, California, W.C. was just 26 years old in Set It Off, playing Darnell, the explosive, tragic boyfriend whose unchecked rage becomes the match that lights everything on fire. It was 1996. West Side Connection was peaking. Bow Down hit number 2 on the Billboard 200 and went platinum within months. The crossover into film felt like the beginning of something massive, but success, as W.C. would learn, has a way of amplifying the problems already present rather than dissolving them. His marriage collapsed under the pressure of non-stop touring, financial instability, and the emotional consequences of a life still deeply connected to Compton street culture. He later admitted that success amplified the conflict rather than saving the relationship. The divorce left him isolated. Internal feuds, substance abuse, and label politics stalled his solo career. While peers evolved and expanded, W.C. released only 4 solo albums across more than a decade. Today, at 55, he lives a quieter life, mentoring, working as an occasional industry consultant, recording privately. His estimated net worth of around $2 million is modest by rap industry standards, but the man who came out the other side of all that chaos still standing deserves more credit than that number suggests. The rest of the cast, where are they now? Anna Maria Horsford, born March 6, 1948, in Harlem, New York, was 48 when she played Ms. Wells in Set It Off.
Looking right at him. Wasn't even like 2 seconds before you just got there. I need to talk
to the mother alone.
At 77 years old today, she is still working steadily in television while advocating for Caribbean cultural heritage. She spent decades fighting typecasting after Amen, eventually earning 2 Daytime Emmy nominations for The Bold and the Beautiful between 2016 and 2017. Her estimated net worth of around $1 million reflects quiet endurance across a career that refused to end. Chaz Lamar Shepard, born October 26, 1977, in Philadelphia, was just 19 years old when he played Stevie Nuom, Stoney's brother, whose death in the film's opening act ignites everything that follows. His role lasted minutes on screen. Its emotional impact lasted the entire film. After Set It Off, his career moved into supporting television roles, Seventh Heaven, The Temptations, and eventually Luke Cage in 2018. At 48, he continues working selectively in television, theater, and music. His estimated net worth of around $1 million reflects quiet endurance rather than collapse. He got into this at 19 and he is still here. That matters. Samuel Monroe Jr., born November 28, 1973 in Los Angeles, was 23 when he played Lawrence, the volatile betrayer whose actions accelerate the film's tragedy. Strong performances in Menace to Society, The Players Club, and Tales from the Hood established him as a presence worth watching. But as Hollywood shifted away from street-centered narratives, roles became scarce. He moved into independent production, creating the halls from lived experience rather than commercial opportunity. At 52, he works as an independent creator, writer, and mentor. His estimated net worth of around $2 million stands not as blockbuster wealth, but as proof of survival. So here we are, nearly 30 years after 4 women walked into that bank and changed American cinema. And what does this cast actually tell us? It tells us that the version of someone you see on screen is always the simplified version. The real story is what happens when the cameras stop, when the applause fades, when the money runs out, or the marriage falls apart, or the diagnosis comes back with news you weren't ready to hear. 2 members of this cast are gone, Charlie Robinson and Thomas Jefferson Byrd, both men who gave decades to this craft and deserved far more protection than the industry provided. Several others fought battles, depression, addiction, grief, financial ruin, industry abandonment that never made the entertainment news cycle because there was no red carpet moment attached to them. And yet they kept going. Most of them are still going. Queen Latifah built an empire. Jada Pinkett Smith chose truth over image. Kimberly Elise turned grief into art. John C. McGinley turned personal tragedy into advocacy. Sally Richardson Whitfield broke through the directing barrier that kept pushing her back. Chip Fields rebuilt herself behind the camera after the front of the camera was closed to her. Set It Off was about what happens when people with nothing left to lose decide to take back something for themselves. Turns out, the cast understood that theme better than any of us realized. Now here's what we want to know from you. Whose story hit you hardest? Who in this cast deserves a full documentary about their life? And was there a name on this list today that surprised you? Someone you hadn't thought about in years? Drop it in the comments below. We read every single one. If this video gave you something, if it made you think or feel or remember why you fell in love with this film in the first place, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because we're just getting started.